In 1901, sponge divers discovered an object on the floor of the Aegean Sea that would forever change our understanding of what human beings are capable of achieving. It was not a monument or a weapon, just a green, barnacle-encrusted lump of bronze, roughly the size of a shoe, hauled up from 50 meters below. No one knew what they were holding. It took over 100 years for humanity to realize this was a computer, the oldest ever discovered. The Antikythera Mechanism, as scholars would name it, contained over 30 interlocking gears inside, calculating planetary motion and predicting eclipses with astonishing precision. Technology like this, according to our previous understanding of history, should not have existed for another 1,400 years, and yet it did. October 1900. A Greek sponge diving schooner takes shelter from a storm off the small island of Antikythera between Crete and the Peloponnese. As the storm subsided, one of the divers, Elias Stadiatis, decided to explore the seabed beneath the vessel. What he saw seemed impossible. At a depth of 42 meters lay an ancient Roman cargo ship approximately 30 meters long, surrounded by marble statues, amphorae, and bronze objects.
Check the air hose.
The Greek government organized history's first underwater archaeological expedition. Divers worked in inhuman conditions, and 2 of them died. Among the recovered objects was an unassuming, shapeless lump of metal. It was placed in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, and for 2 years, simply forgotten. In May 1902, archaeologist Valerius Stias noticed what appeared to be a gear wheel visible inside the stone. His discovery was not taken seriously. Not then, and not for another 50 years.
Gentlemen, this so-called mechanism is clearly an elaborate forgery.
The academic world was not prepared to accept the find. Bronze mechanisms of such complexity were thought not to have appeared before the 14th century AD.
Possessed such technology.
50 years passed. In 1951, British historian Derek de Solla Price became the first to boldly claim this object was an instrument for calculating astronomical positions. Price spent 20 years studying the mechanism. In 1974, he published Gears from the Greeks, a breakthrough that was once again largely ignored by mainstream historians. The mechanism sat in a glass museum display case under inventory number 15087, priceless, unrecognized, nearly invisible to passing visitors. Generations of scholars stared at this lump of bronze and saw only a puzzle. 30% of the original mechanism was never found, 70% was. Everything changed in 2006. An international team of scientists applied next-generation X-ray tomography and for the first time in history saw what had been hidden inside. The tomographs literally illuminated the 2,000-year-old stone. Layer by layer, structures appeared inside, not random, but mathematically precise. Inside were discovered 37 bronze gears. The largest measured 13 centimeters in diameter. Each tooth had been handcrafted to a precision of tenths of a millimeter. Tomography also revealed hidden inscriptions, over 3,000 Greek characters engraved on the mechanism's interior plates. It was an operator's manual. The inscriptions described the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 known planets. The mechanism combined Babylonian mathematics, Greek astronomy, and highly sophisticated algorithms simultaneously. Particularly astonishing is one mechanism within the mechanism, the so-called Metonic cycle device, 5 interlocked gears precisely reproducing the 19-year cycle of lunar phases. Researchers also discovered an eclipse prediction mechanism. It operated on a 223-month Saros cycle, a principle identified by Babylonian astronomers as far back as the 7th century BC. Imagine the mechanism in its original form, a wooden box the size of a shoebox with 2 dials on the front and 1 on the back. The craftsman's work, a lifetime's worth. By turning a single handle, the user would input a date. The main gear completed 1 rotation per year, transmitting motion through the entire system via a series of progressively smaller wheels. The front dial simultaneously displayed two calendars, the Egyptian civil calendar and the Greek lunar calendar. Both ran in synchrony for the first time in known history. The rear dial was even more complex. It comprised two large spiral tracks, the upper showing the 19-year Metonic cycle, the lower the 18-year Saros eclipse cycle. But the most astonishing discovery came in 2021. Scientists at University College London decoded the mathematics hidden in the pin and slot device and found the mechanism precisely modeled the moon's irregular orbit. For perspective, modern wristwatches use one or two differentials. The Antikythera Mechanism used at least 7 while fitting inside a wooden box. The Greeks called this type of device a cosmorion, literally a device that organizes the universe. One mechanism and the entire predictable cosmos fit in your hands. If such a device existed, why did it not change the world? Why did more advanced machines not follow? Industrial revolutions, computers 1,000 years earlier?
The ratio must be precise. Look here at the diagram.
The answer is sobering. Producing such a mechanism required an entire ecosystem of knowledge. Craftsmen, mathematicians, astronomers, and wealthy patrons all working together. It was a fragile chain.
Curvature is proving difficult to shape.
In 146 BC, Corinth, one of the primary centers of Greek craftsman knowledge, was completely destroyed by Rome. Millennia of accumulated expertise burned with it. Knowledge of such devices was not preserved in accessible texts. Mastery was passed orally from teacher to student. When the last teacher died, the knowledge died with him. By the 4th century AD, as the Western Roman Empire fell, the entire body of applied engineering knowledge that the Antikythera Mechanism represented had been irreversibly lost. But the mechanism itself survived because it sank. The Seafloor proved a better archive than any library, any museum, or any scriptorium across 2,000 years. The Antikythera Mechanism reminds us human genius does not evolve in a straight line. It flares, reaches extraordinary heights, and can be lost. Our task is not to lose it.